All right, JHK here for the South China Morning Post, SCMP MMA. And joining me right now is UFC Hall of Famer, Sugar Rashad Evans. Rashad, thank you so much for the time, man. How's life treating you right now?
Life is good, man. Busy time in life. Have, some little ones and, training and training myself and also training the team. So just trying to get it in, man. I wish there were a couple of me so I can just, be all over the place and doing everything I want to do, but gotta make do.
Yeah, let's jump into first fatherhood, man. How is fatherhood now compared to, let's say, in your earlier days when you were younger and newer to the game?
It's different now. I'm a lot more patient now, and I enjoy the family time a lot. Much more than before when I was younger. When I was younger, I was always trying to do this and do that and trying to achieve so much, but then I missed a lot when it came to just the whole like being there with the family. At some point when you're young, you're just trying to like knock out all these goals and achieve all these things, but then you know, the family has to be along with you. And I admit, that was not my strong suit. But now that I've gotten older, I really started to appreciate and understand, like, how important it is to be there in a physical presence.
For sure, man. I'm learning it too, man, as I go. Now, yeah, you recently announced that you're coming out of retirement. It has been almost 3 years since you stepped away. Why return now? What has changed for you?
A lot has changed. Mostly, my mindset and my desire to want to compete has changed a lot. I went through that period towards the end of my career where I was just in a gray area. I really couldn't, feel the level of competition. I didn't have a pulse on competition or competing anymore, and I lost my desire in not being able to feel the pulse of it. At one point, fighting was like the easiest thing in the world for me to do. It was just like brushing my teeth. It was absolutely nothing. It was just, what I did. But then at some point, that all changed, and that change really left me in a space of just kind of uncertainty, not knowing, what was causing it, where, what happened to that person that was there before, and all those different things. I started questioning myself a lot, and that questioning, it didn't, it didn't. It didn't stop, and to the point where I was like, man, I think I just need to just retire and just figure out like what's going on and why I'm not feeling competing anymore. Why am I so cold to the sport that I love so much, and it was so easy for me to do. And through the years, my space away from the sport, I kind of learned some things about myself, and I learned my why again, because it's all about the why. Why do you do anything? Why do you have this podcast? And it's a why. So once I got disconnected from my why, I had to really understand uh, what was my new why.
Was there a certain moment recently that just it came to you, it just clicked with you? You're like, man, I gotta step back in there and throw these hands.
Well, I mean, I'm training Greg Hardy, and I got a couple of other guys that I'm working with, but it's the love of the sport. I've been away for so long, but I still been close to it. In a sense of just training and being an analyst and all those things. So I kept my beat on it. But I think the biggest thing for me was like everything that happened with COVID. I just kind of felt as if like who knows what's going to happen. So much uncertainty that whole the whole thing that COVID has brought is really just put me in a place where I was like, you know what, who knows what tomorrow is going to bring. Uh, but what I want to do is I want to be able to enjoy myself. I want to be able to go out there and feel alive again and just you know, kind of end the story the way I want to. And maybe at the end of the day, I never get a chance to, but it's the pursuit of happiness. You know what I'm saying? There's something that happens when you pursue happiness. You may not find a thing that you're desiring, but what comes along in that pursuit of happiness is other happiness, and that's what life is about for me right now. I've climbed the highest of heights and achieved some things that I never thought I'd be able to achieve. And now I'm just trying to look for that feeling back in life. When you reach a certain level and you kind of, get inundated with a lot of different people pulling at your attention and kind of different things that pull you out of the now of your experience. You know, you get to the point where you just kind of like, you know what, I just want to be able to feel something again, because you go quite numb trying not to be overwhelmed with everything that's coming your way, and then before you know it, you really can't feel anything anymore. Everything is kind of lost its palatability to you. You know, you can't really feel anything, and then you find yourself just kind of searching.
That pursuit of happiness, do you think that's what most people are missing? They're chasing other things, and that kind of derails them from just being happy their whole life pretty much.
Yeah, I think yeah, I think that people, too often, and I do this at times, and I have done this at times, is they think that happiness is a destination, you know, and it's not a destination. It's a journey. It's a self-discovering thing that you discover on a daily basis, and you discover it in yourself, and you discover it in things all the time. And it's not one thing that's that's solid. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to pick up this, whatever this may be, and like, oh, I found happiness, because happiness doesn't come like that. It's a discovery, and it's a journey, and it's something that you got to keep on unpacking, unfolding, and then you get these gifts in the present. You get these gifts in the present from that pursuit of happiness, and that's where the gold truly is, not in the actual, climbing the mountain and being at the top.
For sure, man. And you are interested in stepping in that squared circle, man. You talked about it. Two names that you tossed around are Roy Jones Jr., Logan Paul. Why do those names interest you the most? Because there's so many people out there right now that you can face.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Roy kind of came to me as like, it was like kind of the first name that kind of got threw around in the whole talks. And Roy Jones is a friend of mine. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him, and I known him as a friend, and kind of gotten a chance to know him in my professional career. But I grew up like the biggest Roy Jones Jr. fan. Like, he was my dude. Like, I even would cut my hair like Roy Jones. People tell me I look like Roy Jones Jr., so I'll be like all happy and hype about it. So to fight him was more like a like a like a kind of perspective view on my life. Like, man, look at how far you've made it. Just the beauty of that, and what that means would have meant a lot to me. But it didn't happen. It may happen in the future, but right now it didn't happen. With Logan Paul, I wanted to get a chance to fight him, and because I seen what he did with Floyd, and I see what him and his brothers doing, and they really carved out a nice little niche when it comes to the entertainment business, and this whole combat business of all things. They kind of found themselves in a situation where they carved out a nice little piece for themselves, and there's plenty of room for it in the combat sport entertainment industry, because what he does is, what they do is they kind of like, they kind of highlight a whole bunch of people that want to compete, that just really never had the venue to compete. And now these people have the venue, they have, the space, and they have the platform. Now there's going to be more people who get involved. But, to fight one of those guys, it would have been a fun fight for me, and in the fight business, you look for those fun fights. You look for fights that keep you motivated. You look for fights where, you may have, wrote a check that your butt can't cash, but, at the end of the day, it keeps you up at night, and it makes you want to train, and it gives you that feeling of like, that feeling of aliveness where, you just like, you miss some sleep, but at the end of the day, it's that feeling of that emotional roller coaster that happens whenever you have a fight that makes the fight worth it. If you don't have that feeling, then it ain't really worth it. So I wanted to pick some people to fight that gave me that feeling inside, because, fighting for money is just fighting for money. Money comes and goes, but it's about the fruit of really why you're doing it. It's that emotional journey, that's that roller coaster that you go on to tame yourself, because you only compete against yourself, right? And when you find yourself in that space where you just kind of like zoned in, it's the best feeling in the world.
There were some talks. How far has those talks gone?
They were going pretty far, but it's a popularity contest at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? And fighting one of these guys, who knows what that perfect thing is? And I'm to the point where like I'm a trash talking dude. I can trash talk, but I kind of feel like I've grown out of that in some ways. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't. I mean, before, when I was a young, rambunctious, pup, I talk trash all day, and there's still that side of me in there. But at the end of the day, it's just not. I'm a 41-year-old man. You know what I'm saying? And I just don't think that way anymore. So these guys like the whole like back and forth drama filled show and stuff like that, which I can do because I understand it's for entertainment. But at the same time, I don't feel like I need to go out of my way to talk trash to these dudes because yeah, they got the platform and yeah, they're bringing in the kind of notoriety that brings in dollars. But at the end of the day, these dudes hasn't they haven't really done anything. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not gonna just chase after them because they got the bag. It's like it is what it is. If you want to fight, I'll fight, but I'm not gonna be a clown for you because then I lose twice.
Logan Paul, man, it seems like Anderson Silva is gonna face off with him, and
Yeah.
Silva opened up as the underdog by the bookmakers. Did you see that? That was surprising to me, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable. But you know what? Maybe they know something because the bookmakers. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes they be on point. It's like they got a little crystal ball. I don't know what's going on with that, but sometimes they figure it out. But I mean, if I'm just judging from what I seen last time from Anderson Silva when he fought Chavez, come on, man, he's gonna bury this dude. And he was the old Anderson Silva, the one that was like the one that was feeling himself, the one that was moving, the one that was, the Anderson Silva that we fell in love with. You know what I'm saying? Like the one who brings his spirit in the antics to the cage, which is just as hard to match as his athletic talent, as his skills. When he's that Anderson Silva, man, he's one of the hardest guys in the world to beat. And I definitely don't think that Logan Paul has that grit to beat him like that, especially somebody who's a big guy too. I mean, Logan looked pretty decent when he fought Floyd Mayweather, but at the end of the day, he's massive compared to Floyd. So, I don't want to throw too much shade, but at the end of, he's not fighting somebody his size. With
Yeah.
Anderson, he's gonna be fighting somebody his size.
Yeah, definitely. And you never know the outcome of fights. So could we see you waiting in the wings for the winner of that fight? I imagine Anderson Silva versus Sugar Rashad Evans. That to me, that's like a dream matchup, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna be waiting in the wings for somebody, and that's the thing about it, man. I'm just gonna stay in shape. I'm gonna get in great shape, and I'm gonna have fun doing it. And whoever comes and the opportunity comes, then I'm gonna be ready for that opportunity. So uh, it's a win-win for me. I may not get the fight that I want right now, but I'm just gonna keep on training. I'm just gonna stay positive about it and just enjoying the journey. Enjoying that pursuit of happiness, enjoying helping, getting my body in the best shape of my life at 41 years old. I mean, whatever carrot you got to put in front of you in order to get you there to that level of physical fitness that's, astounding for a 41-year-old, then it is what it is. And I'll definitely, chase that rabbit as long as I can, as long as it just makes me a monster inside and want to keep putting my body through the training.
Out of the Paul brothers, Logan and Jake, who do you think will have the most success in boxing in the next 5 to 10 years? Because I feel like these dudes are going to be around for a
Yeah.
while.
I think you know what? I think I look at the guys and I seen Logan. Logan's pretty decent, but I'm kind of like I think Jake can really fight, man. And one thing I like about Jake is Jake kind of has like that like a fighter's mentality a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like he's a Disney kid. He's kind of like, always joking and clowning around, but he's got a dog in him. Like I think he has a dog in him, and I like that about him. I think he has a dog in him, and not only does he have a little bit of a dog in him, but he's got a bite too. He's got a bite, man. He's got some pretty nice, clean ones and twos, and people that I know that have trained with him, they said he can scrap a little bit too. So I think he's a better of the Paul brothers.
Speaking of waiting in the wings, another big matchup coming up is Oscar De La Hoya, a legend, versus another legend, Vitor Belfort. You're familiar with Vitor. It seems like Vitor has that fire again, just like yourself. How dangerous is that fight for De La Hoya in his return? Because he hasn't fought in so long.
It's a dangerous fight, man. I'm gonna tell you right now, Vitor Belfort is he's tough, man. Especially this Vitor, right? This version of Vitor. Um, I've seen him not too long ago, and he's built like a he's built like he's solid right now. So and he's been, even before this, he hasn't just been training for this. He's been putting in work for a couple years before he's been, threw his name in the hat and decided that he wants to fight again. So he's been, getting in shape, but at his own time. You know what I'm saying? Because he's an older guy, so he's not rushing to get in shape. He's been doing it incrementally for a while now, and so far what I've seen, he's a beast, man. And De La Hoya's got to be ready. But I seen De La Hoya not too long ago, and he doesn't look that bad either. You know what I'm saying? Like I seen him, and he didn't look like he was, too outsized or too outmatched. It looked like, just from an aesthetic point of view, looking in, it looked as if, like, they look pretty evenly matched. But at the end of the day, when you get older, the first things to go on you is your legs. Your legs are the first to go on you, and your ability, your endurance is just not what it used to be. So, if De La Hoya starts too fast and don't have the endurance to keep up the pace, then the pressure that Vitor will put on him will break him. And plus, not to mention, Vitor is going to be in there wrestling. That referee is going to be getting some work in there. And as a MMA guy, if knowing how to lean on a guy, and you're just kind of draining him a little bit, all of that matters, especially for boxers who don't do that. They don't do that. So when you're trying to keep a wrestler off you, or an MMA guy off you, it's a different kind of pressure that they can put on you once they get into that clinch position.
Outside of those fights, are there any other guys out there that interest you? And I was thinking, like, if you're thinking of boxers, the biggest name is Iron Mike Tyson. It's like, why not? You know what I mean? Why not reach for the stars, right?
Why not reach for the star? But you know what? Mike is my boy, man.
Okay.
Yeah, Mike is my boy. I got to really know him in the last few years a little bit more. I met him, when I was fighting, but I really got a chance to, really connect with him and, develop a bond with him in the last few years. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's next. I'm actually kind of threw my name in a hat with, have you heard about Shannon Briggs and
Yeah.
Rampage talking about fighting? So they're putting on a fight card, and they're getting fighters right now. So I told Shannon, who doesn't live too far from where I live here in South Florida, that yeah, I'm down to fight. So whoever they get, that's a good matchup for me. I'm definitely down with that. And they're looking to probably do that card. I'm thinking November or December. So I'm gonna see how that develops, if it develops, and see if there's something in it for me. But at the end of the day, like, there's a lot of these fights happening right now, and I'm sure my luck is good enough that I'm gonna get one of them. I'm gonna get somebody.
Yeah. Let's go, champ. Let's go, champ. Now, you started boxing. I remember watching an interview at a young age, even before wrestling, I believe. So, how much
Yeah.
has boxing been a part of your training regimen over the years during your MMA career?
Boxing's been a big part of my development as a fighter. I started boxing, back at Pal League with Pop Porter in Niagara Falls, New York, and he gave me some pretty good basics, but he just pretty much instilled the love and discipline of what it takes to be a boxer. But then I kind of got out of it and did some wrestling and did some karate and stuff like that. But when I got back to Michigan and really got with my first training, I went to this gym called Crown, and it's just known for boxing. And there's this guy named Joaquin Rodriguez. Now he's a coach of Team Murcielago, and he's got, like, a bunch of guys like Chaos and Devin Smith, who's my godson, is one of them, and he's got a few guys that he represents. Joaquin Buckley's another guy he represents. So I started getting with him, and I would go to Crown Boxing, and he kind of reignited that love for boxing that I had, and just kind of broke me down from the basics and showed me some old school boxing tips. And also, my good friend Noe Hernandez, an old school boxer, old school UFC fighter, fought Chuck Liddell in their debut UFC fight together, and he's a big boxing guy. So I just been, getting a lot of boxing tricks throughout the years from everybody. But yeah, that's pretty much been the basis of my boxing in the MMA field.
Who are you working with now to make your return? to boxing?
Fareed, his name is Fareed, and Fareed, he's got well, I forget the boxer's name, but he's out of Denver right now. Fareed is, and I worked with Fareed back in the day when Fareed was when I was training with Trevor Whitman. I was working with Trevor Whitman, but Fareed was also there too. And I also brought him out here when I first moved camps to South Florida. He worked with me for the Tito Ortiz fight, the second fight. And, we established that bond back then. I call him Unc. That's how close that we've become over the years. But I'm going to use Fareed. And, he's already came down one time already to kind of dust off the cobwebs and kind of get our timing back together again. He's going to be coming back in a few more weeks, and just going to keep on just incrementally just kind of building it back up. But I have relationships with Pedro Diaz out here, great Cuban boxer and unbelievable coach. So I'm going to lean on him a lot too while I'm here as well, and working with Tyrone Spong too. Tyrone Spong is one of the best boxers in the world, so I want to get some work in with him. And I also got Big Baby Miller too. Jarrell Miller is out here too, so I'm going to work with him as well. So there's a lot of guys that I'm going to get some work in, just kind of bring me back into boxing and to kind of get me to boxing, because there's one thing to go in there and box for MMA, but it's a completely different ball of wax boxing for boxing. It's just not the same thing. And you really learn the skill and the sweet science when you go to pure boxer and he's got you punching that air and he's looking slick and he's moving. And you're like, man, it doesn't look like he's doing much, but he's whooping my butt.
There's always that debate of who has the best boxing in MMA, and then at your height, during your run at the top at the light heavyweight division, you had some hands on you. Did you feel like you had the best boxing at that time in the UFC?
Yeah, I mean, I won't say the best boxer, but I had some hands. I will give myself the credit. I don't want to pat myself too hard on the back, but I mean, I definitely have some hand skills. I thought that, I love to throw the hands. I love to throw the hands, and I love to, I just love the feeling of catching somebody with those hands. You know what I'm saying? So it became an addicting feeling to really, to really let go with the hands. So I just want to lean back into that and kind of even go further than I did before, because now that I've been coaching, that I've been training, like my understanding, even just being an analyst from the outside, just my understanding, my eye for it has just gotten so much better, and my technique and everything around it has gotten so much better. So I'm excited to see like how I'm going to do now that I've implemented all these different things, or I guess I should say have the understanding of all these things that I didn't have before.
Yeah, and also you don't have to go through that strenuous training, MMA training, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you've had years to let your body fully heal from pretty much all of that, and man, I can't wait to see what you have for us, man, in that ring. Now, you've been doing a great job with the broadcasting. I wanted you to put your analyst hat on now, and I'm going to pick your brain a little bit. Usman is going to face Covington again in November, UFC 268. I guess it's going to be in MSG. The first fight was very violent. The rematch is going to be violent also. When you look at the trajectory of those fighters, both of those fighters since that fight, what type of fight are you expecting?
Well, I think that Colby Covington is going to come into this fight a bit different. The fight that he had against Tyron Woodley, he did win the fight. He did look dominant in the fight, but he was not the same Colby Covington that we've seen before the Usman fight, and by that I mean his stand-up wasn't as crisp. It wasn't as persistent as it was before. It looked as if like he was trying to err more on the side of wrestling and grappling, and it could be just that he was going with Tyron and he knew how to fight him. But at the end of the day, I feel as if like when you get your jaw broken and when you get yourself separated from consciousness, that reverberates in your mind for a long time, and it takes some time to get that out of your mind. So I think there's a little bit of gun shy in there, with him, and especially the fact that he was going with Tyron, and Tyron has that big, powerful punch, and he can put him out. So going into the fight with Usman, he's going to know that Usman has the ability to put him out because he's done it before. He's going to know that Usman has the ability to break his jaw because he's done it before. So I think he's going to try to push the pace, and I think he's going to try to push the pace in the wrestling department, make Usman wrestle a little bit more and try to see if he can get Usman to expose some of his cracks trying to defend wrestling, and then from there add in some of his hands from there. I think that's the game plan that Colby Covington's going to use. And with Usman, all he has to do is just keep on doing what he did last time, but don't get so in an ego battle with Covington. You know what I'm saying? I felt like before in the first fight, there was a little bit of ego measuring in that fight, and he got caught with some good shots, but he didn't have to if he was not fighting from that like position of anger, because when you fight with anger, it kind of blinds you sometimes. And I'm not saying he fought with pure anger, but you seen he had that anger in there where he was like, stubborn about things when he shouldn't have been stubborn about things. And I look for him this fight, to continue what he's been doing in the last few fights. Last few fights that he's been doing, that he had with Masvidal and with Gilbert, he showed his evolution with Trevor Whitman. He showed his understanding for truly Trevor Whitman's game. And if you know anything about Trevor Whitman's game, it's all about the angles that he's able to create. Justin Gaethje has completely changed as a fighter, not now because he's not standing on the train tracks anymore. He's landing those big shots, and then he's getting off at an angle and then continuing the assault from a different angle where he's not in front of his opponent, where his opponent can just, throw one back and hit him. So Usman had that in his last fight, and he had that with Masvidal, and he scored a knockout. So I'm going to look for Usman to keep on just exploiting those angles. And that's the thing about it. When you have somebody who truly understands the angles, you look at a guy like Lomachenko, truly understand the angles. Those guys are hard to beat because they're not only punching, but they're making you have to think twice about what you throw, because if you throw a punch and overcommit, you can be out of position for the return.
Jon Jones, he's been slowly building himself into a true heavyweight. The fans, they want him back ASAP, but I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon. Do you feel like this is gonna be actually beneficial for Jones in the long run because of all the monsters that are in the heavyweight division right now with Ngannou and Stipe and even Derek Lewis and Gane, that he adjusts himself well so when he gets in there he can perform at the highest level?
Yeah, I think it's good that he's allowing himself to have the time. I think it can only help him to have the time to build his body up, I mean, Jon was always a big light heavyweight, but it's a different story stepping in there with these guys who are true heavyweights and have that true heavyweight power, because it's about the base, it's about having those legs. It's about having those, the glutes and the butt to be able to push that power off. We need to drive that right hand home or left hand or whatever punch you're throwing. So, those are the things that Jon need to work on. But at the same time, here's the thing. The more you're away from the sport, no matter who you are, it always chinks at that arm of invincibility. It does, because the sport, it moves so fast. And steady competing in MMA, I cannot overstate that. You have to be steady competing to feel it. It's a feel. It's when you go out there in a cage and you feel, that cold, hot feeling from just, being in the arena, that it's just a weird feeling sometimes, and hearing the crowd and, looking across the mat and seeing some blood where somebody got their brains, beat out earlier in the fight. And you just kind of like, oh, I don't want to be there. But, it's a feel to it. So the longer you're away, it always hurts, and especially, Jon going up in heavyweight, one of the biggest problems in light heavyweight was the fact that, these guys were closing the distance because they lost the fear. They weren't afraid of Jon no more. They started to believe that they can strike with him. They started to believe that, they were on his level, and Jon was getting hit a lot more, granted, Jon was maybe lacking motivation. Jon was maybe lacking that thing that made him extra special in early out, but the gap was closing. Now it's going to be interesting to see, is the gap truly closing, or was it just his lack of interest? Because now he's going up to heavyweight, and some of those attributes, most of those attributes that made him so dynamic at light heavyweight is going to be minimized at heavyweight, and sometimes taken out of the equation when you go against a guy like Francis, who has, just as long reach. So there's going to be some intangibles that Jon's going to have to get I mean, there's going to be some tangibles, I say, that John's going to have to get used to, in when he gets back out there and starts moving around with these heavyweights, because it's a different ball of wax. But I do believe if anybody can do it, it's going to be Jon Jones, because Jon Jones is one of the smartest fighters I've ever fought, and he's just, his IQ and his adjustments and his ability to see things before they manifest is uncanny.
Rashad, man, that was incredible. Thank you so much for the time, and
No
I
problem,
can't
bro.
wait to November, man. I hope they get you somebody so that you can step in there and get the juices flowing. Thank you so much.
I hope so too, man, because I'm ready to
Take a move in the ring. You can hit me with the words you fling.